railroad blamed a single broken rail, but investigators discovered miles of failing track. They called it a disaster that was unavoidable. On November 13, 1913, hundreds of people climbed aboard an excursion train in southeast Alabama. Farm families, children, newlyweds, laborers, teachers, neighbors. They were headed to the Barbour County Fair in Eufaula. For many of them, it was supposed to be the happiest day of the year. Instead, somewhere east of Clayton, Alabama, the train left the rails and plunged down a 25-foot embankment. By the time the screaming stopped, the hillside was covered in splintered wood, twisted steel, steam, and bodies. More than a century later, most people in Alabama have never heard about it. We're going back to the forgotten rail line between Ozark and Eufaula, back to the final minute before disaster. I'm Pelham Pugh, and this is American Shadows. The train was Central of Georgia passenger train number 18. Normally, it carried only a locomotive and 2 cars, but this morning was different. The county fair in Eufaula had drawn crowds from all across the region, and the railroad added 3 extra coaches to handle the rush. Between 400 and 500 passengers packed into the train. Some stood in aisles, others packed in shoulder to shoulder. Children pressed against windows, watching the pine forest slide past in the morning light. The train left Ozark shortly after 5:30 a.m. and reached Clayton around 7:25. Then it pushed eastward toward Eufaula, toward the fair, toward the broken rails waiting ahead. The Interstate Commerce Commission investigation later revealed something horrifying. The railroad already knew this section of track was dangerous. The rails on this branch line dated back to 1883. They had already been worn out somewhere else before being reused here. The track had no ballast. The ties were untreated pine and cypress. Many were rotting so badly that spikes could be pulled out by hand. And in less than 1 month before the wreck, 14 broken rails had already been discovered on this same section of track. 13 were patched and left in service. The section foreman had only 2 men helping maintain 9 miles of railroad. The ICC were later described conditions with one brutal phrase: the track in the vicinity of this accident was in deplorable condition. East of Clayton, the line descended downhill toward a high embankment. The grade reached nearly 2.5% in places. Passengers later said the train was moving too fast. Railroad employees denied it. The truth disappeared somewhere between memory and liability. The north rail broke. The engine survived. The first 2 cars stayed upright. The rear 3 coaches did not. The cars ripped from the track and plunged down the embankment. Wood exploded. Roofs collapsed. Passengers were thrown into flying timber and shattered glass. One coach rolled completely over before stopping at the bottom of the hill. Another was crushed almost flat. The ICC measured wreckage scattered hundreds of feet from the broken rail. And in seconds, a crowded excursion train became one of the deadliest railroad disasters in Alabama history. The exact death toll may never be fully known. Some newspapers reported 9 dead. Others reported 12. One report claimed 22 eventually died from injuries. But the names that survived still echoed through the history of the wiregrass. Monroe Floyd, Ronnie Brock, Miss Alto Adams, Laura Wilkinson, Pomp Bootsy, Lonnie Fryer, Maud McCrae, Curb Bill Jr. Others whose names shifted across newspapers because the chaos after the wreck made identification difficult. Some victims died instantly. Others were trapped in the wreckage while rescuers clawed through shattered wood trying to reach them. Citizens in Clayton opened their homes as emergency hospitals. Doctors arrived from every surrounding town. Relief trains came from both Eufaula and Ozark, and for a brief moment, this isolated Alabama rail line became national news. The railroad simply blamed a broken rail, but the ICC investigation went much further. Inspectors found 16 broken rails within a single mile of track near the wreck site. They found rotten ties everywhere, loose spikes, improvised repairs, unsafe speeds, and the railroad trying to maintain a failing branch line with almost no manpower. Then came the sentence that destroyed any illusion this was unavoidable. Accidents of this character may be expected to occur. Not might, not could, expected. The railroad knew, and families boarded anyway because they had no reason not to trust the tracks beneath them. Today, the rails are gone. The line between Ozark and Eufaula has been abandoned for decades. Most people driving through Clayton have no idea one of Alabama's worst train wrecks happened nearby. But if you know where to look, the old embankment still remains, cutting silently through the trees, a scar left behind by a railroad that outlived its own safety. More than 100 years later, the wind still moves across that abandoned grade, and somewhere between the grass and pine straw lies the memory of a crowded excursion train headed for a fair in Eufaula, and the final minute before everything changed. History disappears quietly, especially in places like this. Small towns, forgotten rail lines, families whose names survive only in old newspapers and government reports. But on November 13th, 1913, hundreds of people climbed aboard a train believing they were headed toward a celebration. Instead, they became part of Alabama history, and more than a century later, the old railbed still remembers. I'm Pelham Pugh, and this has been American Shadows.